choir director slept with, or he wasn't the choir director, he was the minister of music. He slept with a young lady in the choir. She became pregnant. He was married. She was married. Big scandal in the church. There were allegations of incest. There were allegations of thievery. Well, this really wasn't an allegation where somebody planted thousands of dollars inside of a wall as they were building a part of the building to come back and get it at a later date. Physical fights between pastors, a lot of adultery. There was just so much going on. We're flying around in on Lear jets, and we're preaching all over the country. One of the largest ministries in the country. There was one ministry, but several locations all around the country. Young ministers like myself, up and coming ministers, preaching everywhere on preaching rotations, nice salaries. There was a lot going on. And so I'm going to give you my mega church journey as an ex mega church pastor. I'm going to give you my journey. You better strap yourself in. You don't want to miss this.
For me, right, for me, right.
Tell my story of being a young mega church pastor. I'm no longer, well, I'm still young. It's a matter of opinion. But this was almost 30 years ago when I started out in one of the largest ministries in the country. I graduated from school as a salutatorian. And so immediately after school, I was hired into this mega church. Now, this church was, at this time, it was unique. It was one church, but they had many locations around the country. And so there were dozens and dozens and dozens of ministers and pastors and ministers of music. And it's just, it was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me as a young man in my late 20s. After I graduated from school, I was immediately hired as a full-time minister. And so in my early 20s, I am a full-time minister working in the church day after day. It's a great salary starting out. I think I started out, it was a little over 30,000, close to 40,000 starting out. And back then, that was a decent salary, especially for a young minister. And so after school, I began to work in what was called the home visitation program, where 3 days a week, I visited homes all day. One of those days being Saturday, another one being after service on Sundays. I would go and minister to people in their homes. In 1 or 2 days out of the week, I would go and minister in the homes. And that's where I got my footing. That's where I learned so much about mega church ministry in the homes of all of these people. In 1 year, I did over 300 home visitations. That seems almost impossible, but it's true. Over 300 home visitations. And that's where I saw the hand of God move in these people's homes. And I began to realize that the battle in people's lives is not at church. The battle was basically at home. You would be surprised at somehow some people live, dress up on Sundays, beautiful cars, wonderful looking family, very cosmetically beautiful. But when you go to their homes, you see the real struggle and you see the real battle. And so that began to open my eyes up in this mega church ministry. And I was so glad about it, because that gave me the opportunity to also meet the members inside of this large church. Because one of the issues that many people have with mega ministries is that the pastor doesn't actually get to minister to or touch his congregation except from the pulpit on Sundays, and if they have midweek services on Wednesdays. And so at this church, the young ministers and young pastors who were under the bishop were able to go and meet the congregation. And so it was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me to meet all of these families and pray for them and get their information to the bishop so they can get the help that they needed. I was because I was the youngest man on the totem pole at that time, I was the valet. Now, so I'm a home visitation minister, and now I'm a valet. I'm a valet because this ministry had celebrity pastors, or what they call them now, from all over the world. They would come in, and it was my opportunity because I knew the Georgia very well, the streets of Georgia very well. So it was my responsibility to get these celebrity pastors and ministers and preachers, evangelists throughout the city. Had to take them to hotels, get them back and forth to the conferences, get them to dinner with the bishop and his family. And so I was the one that took everybody everywhere, from the hotels and all of that stuff. That was also a wonderful experience for me, getting to meet all of these celebrities. I remember one time, something that really blessed my heart was I had Fred Hammond and his team with him, and they were all in the van, and I was driving the van, and I was kind of upset because I knew I wasn't going to be able to sit in on the service and hear Fred Hammond minister that night. It was on a New Year's Eve night. And so I'm, saying, man, well, at least hopefully I'll be able to get some type of recording or something, or stick my head in. Well, guess what happened? They began to warm up in the van. And so here I am, a young minister in my 20s, crazy about Fred Hammond. He begins to warm up, him and his team, right there on the van, and I get my own personal concert, on my way to the conference. And so there were a lot of perks that came with it. I have to say, at 28 years old, young and married, very young family, I worked too much. It was easy for me to get in a 12, 13, 14-hour day in ministry, because ministry never stops. And if you don't know any better, you'll allow yourself to get burnt out. And so I would work all day. I work all day on Saturdays. We go to church Sunday morning, and I'm back out home visitation Sunday evenings. Then we also started what was called what we called it touch groups. There were groups where we met in people's homes, and that was a wonderful blessing too, where I was the pastor over I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 groups that met every Friday. There was another opportunity for me to minister to God's people and to understand ministry. It was great being a touch group pastor. But those 12-hour days really began to wear on me and my family, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. And then I began to see so much in the ministry that I did not know existed. And so I'm about to take the veil away now so that you can see it. My first day on the job, I'll never forget it. Young pastor, got my own office. I'm excited. The pastor who was over me, the senior pastor, he took me to my office, said, "This is your office, young man." And he said, "I'll be back in a little while to get you, and we'll talk about your schedule and all those things." And so I sit up in my new office and get everything straightened out. And I'm, reading my Bible, of course, and listening to some praise music. And so an hour goes by. 2 hours go by, 3 hours go by, and I go, wait a minute now, and this is a big church. So wait a minute, let me go down there and see they forgot about me. So I go down there they had an area where the pastor's office, the senior pastor's offices, and some of the other pastors, their offices were. And so I get down there, and when I walk in, they all start laughing, and they said that we were just going to see how long you would stay up there before coming down. They said, "Were you up there fasting and praying?" And so that was a joke that they played on me as a young pastor. But many things began to happen. Not too long that I was able to see my first fist fight of pastors, and I was the one who broke it up. I came downstairs out of my office again. These two pastors are going toe to toe. I don't remember what it was about, something foolish, and it really, really, really surprised me, shocked me, saddened me, because I didn't know these type of things happened, in churches amongst the senior leaders. An actual fight took place. I had to break it up, and then the secretary told me, "Oh no, they get at it all the time." I'm like, "What? In the church? That's not what I'm used to seeing on Sunday morning." And so I began to realize that there were a lot of contentious relationships amongst the pastors and the ministers. And so, of course, me being a young guy, I'm doing my best to stay out of their way and not get caught up into any of the contention. And I'm taking on assignments. I'm going to hospitals. I'm doing the things. I'm leading early morning prayer at 6 a.m. I'm doing the things that I believe that a minister and pastor should be doing. And they're telling me that I'm doing a good job. And so I'll never forget one day, early in the morning, about 3 o'clock in the morning, the family calls me and they said, my dad is real sick. He's in the hospital. Minister Smith, can you come and pray for him? We don't want to lose our father. So I go to the hospital. I get there about 3:30 or so early in the morning, and I'm praying for the father of the family and trying to comfort them. And later on that day, yeah, he passed. But I went on to the church. I got to the church probably about 4:30, 5 o'clock. And when I got there, the janitor or the head deacon was the one who opens up all of the doors. He tells me, hey, Minister Smith, why don't you just go get you a nap or something in the office, and I'll wake you up in a little while. I said, okay, perfect. So I go into my office and I'm sleeping, and I when I go to work actually that morning out of my office, I found out that somebody had called the bishop and told the bishop that I didn't come to work that day. And that's when I began to realize that it was as much backbiting in the megachurch as it was in corporate America. And so, I had to really keep my guard up and had to make sure that everything that I did was on the up and up. And so there was a young lady that I knew before I even got into ministry who had a young child. And the child, I didn't know at that time who the child's father was. But when I found out that the child's father was actually somebody that I work with in ministry who was married. And as I began to get the whole story and bring it together, it was a mess. It was a scandal. Some people knew, some people didn't know, some people believed it, some people did not believe it. And so it was a big mess in the church. With adultery all over the place. It was amazing to me how good we looked on Sundays when we came out to worship with the congregation as the young pastors and ministers, and we came out with the bishop and we looked so wonderful, but nobody knew about the mess that took place from week to week. I never forget, one day I realized that there was this young gentleman in the congregation who liked one of the ministers on staff that I work with, young lady, and he called us all up, all of the pastors and ministers on the staff, and he goes, I need you all, if you can, set Thursday aside, Thursday morning and Thursday evening, because I have a special treat that I want to give all of you guys. And so he has a limousine come and pick me up and pick everybody, all of the pastors and ministers up, and we go to this men's boutique. And I listen to me, I tell you the truth. He gave us we all got $1,000 suits, $1,000 or more each suit. I got a pair of eel-skin shoes. I don't even know what eel-skin was, but I got eel-skin shoes. It was the softest leather that I've ever felt before. And that's the kind of life that we were living. We were flying whenever we had to go for special occasions or to preach. Sometimes we would fly commercial, or we would fly on Lear jets. And I'll never forget one time we were going to I think it was a Christmas party for the bishop, and he did a wonderful thing for us. My wife was pregnant at the time. The jet that he had, the Lear jet that he had, didn't have a restroom, so he rented a larger jet so that my wife, who was pregnant, if she needed to use the restroom, she would be able to do it, and that was very nice. And so let me tell you this about what I believe about mega churches. Oftentimes we start off right. We're doing it for God, to the glory of God. And it's all about our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. But what happens is, I think the ministries begin to get too big for us, where one man or a few men, we can't really manage it, because we're not managing just money. We're not just managing buildings. We're supposed to be managing people. And so the staff gets too big, the congregation gets too big. And so you know what begins to happen, right? Oftentimes, in the multitude of people, you have secrets, you have scandals, there is greed, there are people with all kinds of agendas and motives The more people you have, the more the devil can hide. And so oftentimes working in the megachurch was more stressful than it was when I was working in the world, because there were so many people fighting, so many people lying, so many people trying to get positions, trying to get titles. There were people that were stealing. There were all kinds of stuff. Like I said, the adultery that was going on. And then, I had my own private personal life, and I remember on Fridays, I had to counsel sometimes, and I would counsel sometimes from maybe I get in about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I would counsel from 10 all the way to like 7 in the evening. All kinds of counseling sessions. One that I'm always reminded of is where a young man and a lady comes into my office, and they go, well, we need some help. I'm having all these problems, and she's trying to get me to come to church. She want me to be like you. She want me to be a man of God. But when I met her, she was a stripper. And so how in the world can now all of a sudden she want me to be a preacher? I ain't no doggone preacher. I was pimping when I met her, and she was a stripper. And so now she want me to be like you. And I'll never forget it. This lady got up and whopped that man upside the head so hard. I was in such shock. Took me a minute to get up and go over there and try to break them up. And then my secretary, who had been the secretary at the church for a number of years, she comes in and she said, y'all got to go. Y'all got to get out of there. And I'm sitting over there with my mouth wide open. I can't believe what I just saw. This kind of stuff goes on in the church. Yeah, it goes on in mega churches especially. Mega church is an entirely different type of ministry, and not just because of the people, but because there's so many different types of problems that make the mega ministry complex. Like I told you, there's adultery everywhere. People are stealing everywhere. People are arguing, trying to become, they want their own ministry, or they want another title. They want a promotion. And so they'll do anything to make other people, to pull other people down. And so that was amazing to me, that what I learned being in the mega church really made me realize is that what people need is they need individual attention. They need individual pastoral care. And I learned that from doing the home visitations, that, if you could get a person together and a family together and deal with their problems one-on-one, not just pray for them, but counsel them and help them and get them the necessary help that they may need outside of the church, you'll begin to see these families being made whole. But oftentimes in mega churches, now not all mega churches, but listen to me, I've been around mega churches for a long time, and not just the one that I was a minister in. But what happens is a lot of the things are swept up under the rug. Why? Because you have a brand that you have to protect. You have a name that you have to protect. You have a family that the first family has to be protected. And so oftentimes the best thing for the ministry is to do whatever you got to do to make sure that there's no scandal. There's a scandal that broke out in one of the churches that I was affiliated with, where one of the pastors had an affair with a young lady, and he got her pregnant, and in order for her to keep it quiet, he had to pay her hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep it quiet. Then it found out that he was stealing money and paying child support and all this kind of crazy stuff. In the church, the things that you never hear about, or the things that you do hear about and you never believe it. So listen to me. A lot of the things that you're hearing right now about mega churches and the mega church pastors is true. But they're going to do whatever they can do to protect their brand and protect their name. And then I'm going to say it this way. And then a lot of it that you're hearing out there is not true. What people do is they'll get a piece of a story, and then they'll piece it together and make their own story. They'll make it a better story. You know what I mean? And so that's why I wanted to come and talk about it now, because so many people are saying, man, I don't know if this is true, if it's not true. Don't worry about if it's true. The truth will come out. What you have to do is find you a place of worship. The mega churches now are shrinking because of the conflicts, the scandals, the contention, all that stuff. The mega churches now are I don't want to say they're breaking up, but what's happening is they're shrinking, but yet it's expanding because people are doing more traditional things, like let's just have church in our home, in our living room on Sunday afternoons, or let's have Wednesday night Bible study over Sister So-and-so's house now, because I don't want no more of that big church mess. I don't want nobody stealing my money. I don't want nobody looking at my husband. And so I got these people over here that I can trust, that I love, and so we can get together and we can meet and we can be the church, or we can have church together. And so that's what you're seeing right now. People of like-minded faith coming together, communing together, right? Fellowshipping together. And people are starting to be happy now without the confusion of the big, the mass, the mega churches. And so now what's becoming popular is mini churches, and people are looking at the mega church as being cultic behavior, where things are private, where there's no accountability or authenticity, where the man of God has the final say, the bishop has the final say. But then what happens when we find out that the man who has the final say has been a hypocrite all along? What happens when we find out that he was gay? What happens when we find out that he was a child molester? What happens when we find out that he was stealing the money? That's cultic behavior, because we never made him accountable. Now, I can't point the finger, because I've been pastor for many, many years, and I realized in some areas, especially in the earlier days, one of the biggest issues that I had was I wasn't really accountable to anyone. Now, we have these coverings, but listen to me, the way that we talk about coverings in the megachurch is not really biblical. So the way that you cover me is when I start my church, I give you tithes. And if I need to talk to you, I talk to you. And watch this. And if I have a big enough problem that may affect you, you got to help me sweep it up under the rug. And so this covering stuff is being blown out of proportion now, and people are walking away from coverings now. I have many pastors come to me and say, hey, I'm giving all my money to the bigger organizations, to the big men, the big ministries up there. And my ministry, my little ministry is suffering. What am I supposed to do? I need your advice. Well, I'm not your bishop. I'm not your covering, as we say. But he's saying the covering is the one that was taking all my money. The covering is the one that's making my church weak. And so the mega church, the motto of the mega church now is starting to change. People are sitting up going, so why in the world are we raising millions and millions of dollars for another building when half the people here, some of the founding members, are still struggling? Come on, y'all, let's just be real. Why in the world am I tithing 1/10 to you so that you can get another airplane, you can get another vehicle, we can build another building around here on the backs of the people when my family is struggling? I got kids that I'm trying to get through college, right? I'm only working a part-time job. I got somebody in my family that's sick, that needs my help. I can't spend all my time and all my money at the church. And so people are waking up now to the model of the megachurch. I believe that the megachurch is changing. The megachurch is getting smaller, not so mega, because you can't find megachurch, not just the name, but you can't find the motto of megachurch, where one man raises up a church of 2,000, 10,000 people, churches all around the country, and calls himself the pastor or the bishop. Right? And so the model of it is changing, because it's not necessarily biblical. Right? Remember when they were standing in line to get to talk to Moses, and they told him, hey, wait. I'm sorry. And they wanted to talk to was it Moses? And they said, hey, what you need to do, it was Jethro, right? He said, what you need to do is get men who are anointed to counsel to help you with these people, because if these people are standing here from sun up to sundown, you will die. They will kill you. And so what he was saying is, no, this mega ministry that you're trying to have, you cannot have. This mega ministry that you're trying to build up, you don't need. You need to break this down where all of the people can get the necessary attention that they should. Many mega ministry bishops, apostles, pastors, they try their best to do it, but what happens is people want the man that they hear in the pulpit to come to their rescue. They don't want little Minister Joe or Minister Sally over here to come to them at their home or the hospital. They're looking for the bishop, the one that preaches to them, the one that gets them excited on Sundays, the one, the one who runs this whole big ship. I want them at my front door. I remember I knocked on a lady's door one time, and I was about to do a home visit, and she goes, "Where's the bishop?" I said, "The bishop's not here. The bishop sent me." She said, "Well, I don't mean to be rude, but if the bishop can't come, I don't want you to come. Now, you can come back with the bishop, but I want the bishop to come to me." And that's the mindset of many people. Where is the man that preaches to me from Sunday to Sunday? Where's he at? That's who I want to see. That's who I want to hear from. And I've seen, now I hate, this is the last part of this, what I want to talk about. I don't believe that fame is for ministry. Fame has killed hundreds of celebrities, hundreds of stars, and even fame has destroyed many pastors. I don't believe that pastors should become celebrities. Some of it you can't help, but as long as you are accountable and as humble as you can possibly be, and don't take God's glory away from him, there's certain things you can't do with fame, about fame. But what we see now are pastors, ministers, singers, praise teams who are now celebrities. And I can remember, I'm not going to say any names, I can remember being treated disrespectfully by celebrity Christian artists, where I was a nobody because I was the one that was picking them up. But, I was the one that was making sure that they were okay in the hotel room. And so they didn't know that I was an ordained minister. And I was the only one that could be trusted with somebody of their caliber. And so they treated me just like I was just an old driver, like, today, like I'm an Uber driver or something. They didn't know that I was a man of God with an anointing on my life. Really, it shouldn't have made a difference. But you begin to see that where arrogance now is upon the pulpit because I have 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 members. That arrogance and that pride comes before the fall. And so now what we're starting to see, you can argue with me if you want to, but what we're starting to see is that scripture, pride comes before the fall. There are many mega church pastors / celebrities who are falling now, for whatever the reason. But I believe that what happens is we allow people to make us into idols. And God will chop down every idol that stands before him. So our job as mega church pastors, bishops, all of us apostles, all of that, those leaders, the government of the church, is not to allow people to turn us into idols. If we allow it, then we're going to have to deal with God. And that's what we're starting to see. And everything that is done in the dark will come to light as a born again Christian. And that's what we're starting to see. Things are coming to light now. Ministries are falling now. People are separating. And then the very sad thing that I'm starting to see now is many of the men of God are getting sick. They're getting older and they're getting sick. And of course, that's not good for ministry. But people are saying, is that sickness judgment from God? We don't know, because we don't know what has happened. Sometimes what you see in the light is because of what has happened in the dark. And so what do you mean? Yes, I'm saying that some people will be sick because of what they've been doing in the dark. Amen. I hope that you bless me. I believe I'm going to come out with another one of these videos on MegaChurch, behind the MegaChurch walls. There's so much more that I want to share with you and talk about. I'm sure as soon as I cut the video camera off, I'm going to think of some things that I should have said. So just hang out with me. I hope that you subscribe on my page. I do my best not to have too much scripted stuff on there. Yes, I do preach and teach once a week on Sundays. I preach and teach, and the messages are on YouTube and Facebook. And so, yeah, subscribe to my page. Make sure you make some comments. Let me know how you are, how you're doing, how you feel. And I pray for you and you pray for me. This is Bishop Kenneth Smith. Thank you so much for listening to me.